Illinois legislators advancing legislation to possibly let out violent criminals, to ban polystyrene single-use food containers, and even a task force to look at the impacts of migration due to climate change. No, not migration due to high taxes, migration due to climate change. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, here with the Center Square on YouTube each and every weekday morning. Go to thecentersquare.com, where you can see a lot of these news stories and more all across the United States, but also here in Illinois. I am the associate editor for the Center Square, and I'm at the Capitol when they're in session, bringing you the latest. So let's get right on into it. Yesterday in the Illinois Senate, they were advancing Senate bills. Some of these Senate bills had deadlines already, but they can waive those deadlines really anytime they want. So one bill in particular dealt with violent criminals that were convicted under the age of 21, and ultimately it would allow for these individuals to make motions for possible resentencing. Here's the bill's sponsor, Adrian Johnson, state senator, Democrat.
Senate Bill 248 would merely allow people who have had the Miller factors applied to their case, despite the Supreme Court's mandate that these factors must be considered in sentencing, to file a successive post-conviction petition and receive a constitutional review. That's it. And it's very simple. And
So she says it's a simple bill, allow for a post-conviction review, which could mean there could be steps taken to release them. State Senator Steve McClure yesterday, Republican from Springfield, said this is not a good idea.
Just so these people are there justly. They're there because their crimes were so bad, so horrific, that either as juveniles or under the age of 21, that the judge, after hearing the victim statements, after sifting through a sentencing hearing, decided that you did something so horrible, you should spend decades or more in prison. That's it. So the question for all of us is not whether or not these people are being held against their constitutional rights. The question is, do you want to release murderers, rapists, people that did stuff so bad that they were charged as adults and given massive sentences by judges who heard the evidence, who saw what they did, and who listened to the relevant testimony? There are already avenues to do this. The governor has incredible powers when it comes to clemency, and he can lessen sentences, he can pardon people, that sort of a thing. But at a time when we're seeing Chicago, yet again, the #1 murder capital of our country, unfortunately, is this the message that we want to send? That the issue is we've got too many people that have committed horrendous crimes that are actually being held accountable? Or do we want to say, no, if you do these horrendous crimes, you should be held accountable? And I think every once in a while, this chamber should stick up for the victims and their families.
And this measure across the finish line, you could have victims' families ultimately have to relive a lot of the pain that they've encountered from what happened to their loved one. The measure passed the state Senate. A similar measure, but it's not the same, advanced to the House floor early in April 10th. State Representative Teresa Ma, she had a measure that was very, very similar to this. I think it went a little bit further than the Senate bill, but Ma's measure did not advance. It failed to get enough votes, even though the Democrats are in the vast majority of the Illinois House. And I think that this line of questioning from Republican State Representative Dan Ugasti for Teresa Ma's failed House bill really kind of got to the crux of why I think people decided to vote against it.
Does this also include crimes against children? If someone committed a crime against a child, would they be included in this as well?
They were children themselves when they were convicted.
I just want to know if this would include people who committed crimes against a child. That's all I was asking. Yes? Okay. I urge a no vote.
And shortly thereafter, in that debate, Ma's bill failed. I think it was like 54 to needs 61 to get across the finish line. So interesting to see the Senate with a more mild version advancing that. So we may actually hear that debate again in the Illinois House. Let's take a look now at back to the Senate from yesterday. You had a measure that essentially says by 2030, you can no longer purchase or sell polystyrene single-use food containers like those clamshells you get from the store. Actually, I had to take a picture yesterday for the news story, and I had a styrofoam clamshell Italian beef sandwich. So look at that. I mean, the clamshell, that 5 years from now, if this measure out of the Senate passes, you're not going to be able to, you still can get the Italian beef, but you won't be able to use the styrofoam container. This is State Senator Jill Tracy asking questions of the bill's sponsor in the Senate about how this is going to be impacting small businesses. Yesterday's Senate floor action, and go. Nope.
Does this
not
also
that
include crimes against
Let's do
children?
this one. There you go.
So anybody that dispenses any type of food in 5 years are going to be banned from using styrofoam, if I'm understanding correctly.
Senator Fine?
There are certain exceptions that are written into the legislation, like egg cartons, ice containers. And it's also important to note that it doesn't say that these companies can no longer pollute or produce polystyrene. It just says they cannot sell it here in Illinois.
Senator Tracy?
The study is going to.
I wanted to ask about the penalties. As I'm seeing it, the penalty is $1,000. Is that per container, per time that they would dispense food in styrofoam? How often is that $1,000 penalty to be applied?
And Fine, the senator sponsoring the legislation had to talk to some staff about that in particular, but ultimately it's a $1,000 fine after a warning.
Again, it's first a warning, but after 5 years, you're not going to be able to purchase the product in Illinois.
State Senator Don Harmon, the Senate president, he got up, held up a reusable coffee cup that he says a lot of people on their own accord are reusing coffee cups like these that you can wash, and it's hard shell, or you use it for coffee, water, whatever. And he says that things are changing. We're in an ever evolving world.
30 years ago in this chamber, if you looked around and you could see through the smoke, you would have seen countless 8-ounce white styrofoam coffee cups. The world is changing. We are moving beyond that and looking for something better. And many of us have made this decision in our own lives, and we try to abide by it. We're not perfect. But we're moving towards something new. So I applaud Senator Fine. This is a pro-business bill with the support of the restaurants and the retail merchants who are the most directly impacted. It's a 5-year phase-in. I've not seen anything that generous in legislative history that I can think of. This creates an incentive to be the builder of the next product.
So Harmon laying that out.
Some of the arguments
saying that this measure makes sense. Let's just go ahead and get it done. But that measure advanced out of the Senate. It's going to go to the Illinois House, where I imagine we're going to see a lot of more heated debate. And of course, we've got until the end of May for them to pass all of these things. Into the House chamber, this was actually from Tuesday afternoon, but House Energy Chamber Committee met to discuss Will Guzzardi's proposal to have a task force to tackle why people are moving. Are people migrating from one place to the other because of climate change? Here is Guzzardi talking with State Representative Blaine Wilhauer, and then State Representative Will Davis chiming in as well.
The goal of the task force is simply that we anticipate that there will be changes in population across the country and around the world, and we need to make sure that Illinois is prepared for the movement of the influx from people from outside of Illinois, as well as the population shifts within our state.
Is this task force going to study the outmigration as a result of some of our climate policies in the state, specifically the outmigration of good union jobs?
The task force is going to project, to the best of the ability of those who work on it, the possible migration trends that will result from climate change, not necessarily our state's policies per se, but climate and weather changes as a whole.
Well, Will, at least he'll be on one Will's side, not, you know.
It's always good to be a little lighthearted there, but yeah. A task force to evaluate migration patterns because of climate change, but will it look at the migration patterns due to, I don't know, the efforts to close coal-fired power plants and all the high property taxes there are, and the business policies, and that'd be an interesting task force. Maybe, Republicans can create their own. I don't know. We'll keep watching what happens. All right, I get paid to go to the State House to watch these guys, so you don't have to, and you can wake up with me each and every weekday morning to get the latest. So we'll be back at it tomorrow to give you a review of what's going on at the Illinois State House. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join the Center Square. Get the newsletter. Go to thecentersquare.com, sign up for that, and be here each and every weekday morning on YouTube.